I welcome you all to this section. The topic that we are going to see today is list and tuples, and this is the third day of the Python course. Tuples can also be called as tuples, and you may wonder what's meant by these. This is a special functionality that's present only in Python programming language and not in others. Let's see what are them in step-by-step slides. Let's see now what is a list. A list is a data type in Python that can be used to store different data type values as a single variable or single entity. That is, if there is an integer a, we can store only integer values in it. If we take a float variable, only float values. If it's a character, only character values. But a list in Python can be used to store all kinds of values. For example, it can be used to store integer, float, character, string, etc. So it is a multi-purpose data type found only in Python. So that's one thing. And next thing is it's mutable in nature. I will explain what's meant by mutable by using the program in the later session of the video. So the one thing that's in the left is how to declare a list, and I'm just printing the index 1 of the list. And in the next white thing, I'm using a for loop to display all the items in the list. I'll explain it using a program also. Now let's see what's the syntax for list. First write this list name and equal to square brackets. This is to create a empty list. If you want to create a list with static values in it, that is, we are giving the values the moment we are defining the list itself, then we have to write a list name equal to inside square brackets the values. This is to create a list of items. Note that we will be studying tuples in the later section, and don't confuse tuples with lists. The key difference between them are very easy. I am going to explain it to you in a separate slide. This is just easy. Just remember what are lists. Just remember the syntax, the square brackets, and the mutable in nature. There are a lot of operations in lists, of which we will just be seeing the basic operation, that is accessing the elements in a list. So there are 4 ways in how to access a list. It may sound confusing at first, but if you practice more and more problems, you can overcome it. Since it's just a simple concept, but it may confuse a little, that's it. The first way is by using indexing, the second is negative indexing, third is slicing, fourth is concatenation and repetition. I'm sure you would have already learned the first 3 things. It's the one concatenation and repetition that you want to learn. The next one is the built-in list methods that are already available in Python. You will be seeing it one by one. Actually, there are many built-in methods, of which we will just be seeing around 2 things. First, the adding elements at the end of the list. What's meant by it? If you are pre-declared a list, and if you want to add new element at the end of the list, you can do that by using the append method. The syntax is the name of the list that you wrote and dot the append keyword, and inside the parenthesis you will be giving the value that needs to be appended the last of the list. This is one thing. The next is inserting elements in the list. Difference is that we can insert an element at any place in a list. The syntax goes like this: name dot insert index comma value. No, there are many built-in functions. Of this we are only going to see these 2. Now I will show you a programmatic example to implement all these functions. I will be using Sublime Text for implementing these. Yeah guys, you will now see how to use the list concept in solving problems and write code using that. So the thing that I am using is called a Sublime Text, which is a text editor, which can be used to compile Python programs, C programs, C++ program, anything. Since this is comfortable to me, I am using this. No issues. You can still write the same program in Jupyter Notebook. Now then, let me read the question. Write a program to get the largest number from the list. So before solving any problem, try to split the problem into parts and try solving each part in order to get the final solution. I have stated how to solve this problem by giving 2 steps in the form of solution. Okay, first one is to declare a list either user input or self-given input. What's meant by it? I will tell now. The input that is given by the user during runtime is called as a dynamic input, whereas the input that's given by the programmer while writing the code itself is called a static input. In this case, we are going to write static input. Let's begin with the function. Def max underscore num list. The max underscore num represents the name of the user defined function. The keyword for declaring it is def. Inside the parenthesis, there's a word called as list that's indicated by orange color. That indicates the name of the argument. Whenever I call this function and pass a list, that list will be represented by the list variable that I have mentioned here. You can use any variable, even a or b, etc. Now then, inside the function, I define max I equal to list of 0. I am assigning the first element of the list to a variable called max I. Then I further write a for loop for I in list. Then inside the for loop, I am writing a if condition that checks whether it's true or false. The condition is if I greater than max I. Remember to use the colon whenever a function ends. So inside it, inside the if function in block, max I equal to I, and the return max I returns the maximum element from the function. It's the last statement that gets executed at the end of the function. If you notice in the function, there are some slight indentations. Why is that? In other programming languages like Java and C, we will be using curly braces, or we represent using some brackets or such. But in Python, these blocks of code are represented only by indentation. So the max I and the content that is immediately inside the function is represented by one indentation, and inside the for loop, the if condition is represented by two indentations, and inside the if, the max I equal to I represented by three indentations to differentiate the blocks, to differentiate which is the inner block of which one and which is the outer block of which function, like that. Now then, now you have to call the function. The function cannot execute it by itself. You have to call it. Now you will be writing print max underscore num. That's the name of the function. I have specified the parenthesis. Inside we will be passing a list statically. Since programmer, which is us, are going to give the input directly, let it be -3, say 0, 1000, 34, 34. That's it. You can specify how much number you want. Up to your choice. It's free. Okay, 250, right. So I specify like around 6 values, and this entire list will be passed to the function that we have defined. That is the user defined function max underscore come in the, which is represented in the green color. This list will be stored in the list variable that is specified as the argument in that, and in that it will be going to the max I equal to list of 0. Max I is just a variable. Max I is just a variable to store the first value of the list. Here in this list, the first value is indicated by the value -3, and in the list it has an index value of 0. So -3 is represented by index value 0, and the value 0 by index 1, and 1000 by index 2, and so on. And the last index 250 will be represented by the index 5. Now let us see how the program executes. Since this is Sublime Text, I will execute this program by using command prompt. Those who are using Jupyter Notebook can directly go to the time 6 minutes 26 seconds. Since I am going to tell you now how to execute the program written in Sublime Text. Okay, fine. Now let us see the path where I saved the file. In E:, the Python session and list probs1. That's the name of the file, and this is the path. E: Python session and the name of the file. Now let us run the command prompt. In that it will be default like C:/user/user. Depending on what username you have, you will be having that name. Now then, since the path begins at E:, I will be typing E:. So the variable gets changed to from C to E:. Now let me show the path again. In E:, it's in the Python session folder. So I will write cd Python session. CD indicates that change the directory. Okay, so in the Python session, the list prob1 is the name of the file, and we have to type it now in the command prompt. So I will be typing list prob1, but the error comes now as not recognized as an internal or external command. Why is that? Since we have saved the file in Python format, we have to specify the extension. That is, for example, in Word, we will be saving the name of the file .word. Similarly, here the list probs.py. Py indicates Python. So the program executes and gives the output as 1000. Now let us see how the program works to get this output as 1000. Now see, since this is the program, I will be explaining it to you now. Def indicates user defined function, and max is just a variable that's get assigned by the first element of the list, that is list of 0. For I in list indicates a for loop, and I is a control variable. So we are iterating each and every value present in the list in the form of a variable I. So I gets changed in each iteration. For example, in the list there is -3 0 1034. In each iteration I becomes -3, then in the second iteration it becomes 0, third iteration 1000, etc. in that way. So inside the for loop there is a conditional statement if. The condition is if I greater than max I. So I am checking whether the iterative variable value is greater than the max I value. That is the first in this if condition checks whether there is a value in the list that is greater than the values that is present in max I. So it will be checking -3, then 0, then 1000 will be in max I, and that max I value will be checked among 34, -1, 250. Since 1000 is large, it will be returned as the result. So this is the explanation of the program. Now let us see how to get the input dynamically, that is getting the input during the runtime of the program. So let us begin, shall we? So for this we have to make some changes in the program. We have to create a list, sample list, that is an empty list, since we have to get during the runtime. We have to declare a variable n equal to int input, since we have to specify how many input that we want from the user. That is taken in the variable n. Now I am declaring for loop for j in range 0 to n. That is, if there is n is 5, I have to get 5 elements from the user. Then I am declaring a variable k equal to int of input. Why can't we write just input? That's because the question is to get the largest number. So input should be in the form of number. That's why I have given int of input for k. Then I have to append the given input into the list. So sample list dot append k, that element. After the for loop finishes, I am writing print max num sample list. This is to call the function max num, and in that I am passing the parameter sample list, which is the list that is generated by the user driven inputs. So that's when append is a built-in function that I showed in the slide before. There are n number of built-in functions. As of now, append is a built-in function that is applicable in this problem. Okay, fine. For j in range, for j instead of j you can use any variable. J, even I you can use. Now let me save the program so that the changes are implemented in the older program. Now let me execute the program. Let's set the path to the file where it was saved. Since no changes have been done, I am just repeating the one that I did before, cd python session and the list prob1.py. So if I click enter, the program starts executing and it's waiting for the input n from the user, which is us. So I give 10. So the user have to give 10 input values now. Let be -5, 0, -2, say -10, 8, so 45, 23, maybe 7 and 8 and 1. And if I click enter, it gives the output 45, which is the maximum element or the largest element that from the inputs given in the list. Let's execute the program again for the n input 3. We have to give 3 values now, 4, 5, 6. So the answer is 6, since 6 is the largest element out of the 3. Now we will see how to access the elements and the inbuilt methods that is present in lists. Now let me define a variable list1 equal to inside the square brackets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, VEC, Velamal Vidyalaya, and so on. Let me finish it. 2. You can give n number of elements in the list and it can have any data type, say integer, character, string, etc. anything. That's the speciality of list1. Next, you will try to print the list1 as it is. Now what I am using is called as a Python ideally. Since this can be used to get the output in the very next line, this will be very easy to explain the keywords, the concepts involved. That's why I am using ideally now instead of Sublime Text. Okay. Now I have printed the list and it will be coming as such. Okay. Now if you want to print any specific element in the list, for example, the print the element present in the index 3 of the list. So print list of 3, it prints the value 4. Since from the beginning of the list, if you count from the index, 1 is represented by the index 0, 2 by 1, 3 by 2, and 4 by 3. Therefore, at the index 3, value 4 is present. So if we try to print list of 1, 0th index, the value 1 is returned. Now, you can also use to print the string as such. You just have to mention the index. That's it. The whole entire string will be considered as a super index. That's it. And the letters inside a string will be considered as a sub index. That's what I am using. List of 1, 6 of 1 means the word VEC is at the index value 6 and the letter inside VEC E is at the index 1. That is, in VEC, V is represented by the index 0, subindex 0, E by subindex 1. So E comes. If I print the list 1, it again remains same. No changes will be occurring since we are just printing the values present in the list. Now if I try to print list of 6 of 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again it comes in the word VEC, and inside VEC the V is represented by the subindex 0. So 6, 0 will be representing the letter V. Now if I try to insert the new element, that is the inbuilt methods, list1, append 10, the 10 will be implemented at the last position. Append function is used to insert an element only at the last of the list. This is one. In order to insert an element in whatever index you specify, you have to use the function insert. So list of 1 dot insert 5, that is I have to index hello everyone at the index 5. Now if you print the list 1, you can see at the index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the fifth index hello everyone has been inserted in the list. Only after that the 6 VEC, the original list, continues. These are the built-in methods that we saw in the slide. Based on the problem, you have to use these concepts accordingly. So I am just explaining the functionality of these keywords. So how to append and concatenate. If I use list 1 plus list 1, it will just copy a list 1 and attaches with the original list. So the same list is repeated twice. If I try to print the list, like print list of 1 into 4, the list will be copied 4 times and it will be printed 4 times. Now let us see other built-in methods that is available in list other than the insert and append, shall we? So let me define another list. List of 2 equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I am just declaring a long list so that we can perform lots of operations on it. So if I write like length of list of 2, it will be returning the number of elements that is present in the list. So length is a keyword, that's why it's highlighted in purple color. The length of list 2 gives the output as 16. Since there are 16 elements, you can count to check for yourself. This is one of the built-in methods that is available for list. Now if I print like max of list 2, the maximum element that is available in the list will be directly returned. Okay, fine. The same goes with minimum. If I use the word minimum, the smallest element that is present in the list will be returned as such. In this case 1. If you want to sort the list in ascending order, you have to write sorted of list name. In this case list 2. So it comes in the sorted order. But this is just used to print the list. the changes will not be implemented in the original list. In order for the changes to be implemented, you have to write like list of 2 equal to sort of list 2, and then if you print the list 2, the original list itself will be sorted in ascending order, and that will be given as the output. There is one more function like count. Count is used to count the number of times a particular value in a list is present. For example, if the count of 1 will return the value 3, since one value is repeated 3 times in the list. So list of 2 dot count of 1 returns 3 and list 2 dot count of 0 returns 1, since 0 is only present once in the list.